As if they don't have too much on their plates. The Kings of Combat Sports Podcast.
Neal.
We'll talk about the things they did that day. They'll analyze the work of Triple H. Rewind-A-SmackDown. 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 Rewind-A-SmackDown.
Hello, everybody on the free side of things. Welcome to this week's edition of Rewind-A-SmackDown. I am one of your hosts, John Pollock, and my fellow king of combat sports. What's your name?
Neal. This is a very funny way because I peek behind the curtain. After we recorded the wellness policy on Tuesday, not recorded, we go live. And I urge everybody to go to the Post Wrestling YouTube channel and watch that episode. It was a really good one. Wai asked me to record my own name in various ways, various tones, various speeds. And I did, but this is the first time I've heard it spliced into the into the theme song. So that made me laugh quite a bit.
It was not my idea. It was a suggestion from at least 1 to 2 people in our Patreon group. So thank you for the suggestion. It was a relatively easy edit. And thank you.
I did try to sing it in one of the Wai released this to Brandon from New Jersey. The entirety of my attempts where I'm singing and such. So if you follow Brandon on in our Discord channel or on social media, I'm sure he'll probably make something of this at some point. So thanks a lot.
I sent it to somebody who would appreciate your your fine work. But thank you as always. Thank you as always to the Identity Crisis, who I did clear that with before I butchered his song that way. So thank you as always to the IDC for letting your beautiful voice every single Friday as we do Rewind-A-SmackDown. Tonight's edition coming to us from the KFC Yum Center in Louisville, Kentucky. 10,266 tickets out as of 5:51 p.m. this afternoon, according to WrestleTix. That is above the last time they were here in Raw in May of 2025 with 10, just a little bit more than that. So what did you think of the crowd tonight, Neal?
The crowd were kind of what I expected. You know, they were up for the big stars and the big segments, and they were kind of down for what I was also down for. But I thought in total, a good crowd, a good lively crowd who reacted well to the things that deserve to be reacted well to.
Well, the first segment on the show was certainly a big segment, but it did not take place in front of this crowd. It took place right as we start the show in the very back, as Jey Uso is shown laying in an ambulance, taken out by a mysterious attacker. There's a lot of commotion in the back as everybody panics, everybody looks concerned. Jacob Fatu, his cousin, is riding in the ambulance with him, and it is very clear, and all but confirmed really from this segment alone, that Jey Uso will be out of the Elimination Chamber match. Of course, to catch people up in case you might have been on, vacation or something, or you missed Raw. On Monday, what has now been reported as a match that was supposed to be won by Bronson Reed to put Bronson Reed into the chamber resulted in Bronson Reed getting injured, and therefore therefore they had to go to Jey Uso to win. They corrected that at the very start of this show by taking Jey Uso out, and the person replacing him will be the storyline that we will answer throughout the rest of this podcast. But what did you think about the way they wrote Jey Uso out in this opening scene?
Well, they did have too many faces and not enough heels in the chamber match, so it wasn't a massive surprise. Although I felt that the way they did it, I enjoy these cold opens where you're starting with mayhem. They don't do it all that often. It doesn't sort of outstay its welcome when they do. They sort of bedlam at the back of the ambulance. Some of the jobbers and the tag team division are hanging around, a lot of yelling and stuff. And it does sort of hook you in rather than sort of someone's entrance music hitting. So I quite enjoyed this segment. I thought it was quite engaging.
Yeah, I thought it was perfectly fine. And I think something like this just tells you can write yourself out of any situation,
Yeah.
no matter what happens. They didn't even need a finish on Monday. So like, don't give me the shit about like, I have to finish the match. I have to finish the match. You know, like these guys trying to tough out these like injuries and risking more injuries just to get like what, go through the scripted finish. Forget that. Just like leave. You know, like whatever. Call it like a no contest. There's always a way to explain it afterwards. So this was
Yeah.
perfectly fine. We all accept it. So the show starts off and Cody Rhodes is pissed off. Sorry, my notes might be all messed up. Apologies. This is where I had to go like to Shoppers Drug Mart to get allergy medication for my child. Cody is out, and he is quickly interrupted by Randy Orton, who says he's sorry. This is Drew McIntyre. My notes are missing. A good chunk of my notes are missing. So please correct me.
No worries, Wai. Cody wants to know what's happening. Trick appears, and he sort of says, "Better him than me." You know, there's one down. He and Javon have a bit of an argument. Then Drew appears. He says, out in the crowd, he says, nothing to do with. He had nothing to do with happened to Jey. Hilarious as it is, as he comes through the crowd, but he says he'll buy a suite every week. The picture got lost for me at this point. You could hear the audio, but it sort of the picture went to black.
Yeah,
but he's in the ring.
I can take over here, Neal. But thank you. Yeah. So Drew just comes out and basically says he didn't do it, but he knows people will point the finger at him anyway. This is not enough to convince Cody Rhodes, who comes out essentially blaming Drew McIntyre for doing the attack to Jey Uso. And as he gets all hot and bothered, Drew escapes. And this is when Randy Orton comes out. He says his only concern isn't so much about Drew, but about being champion again. And he's about to address Cody directly, continuing to fan those flames between those two, when he's interrupted by Trick Williams. And this begins essentially the parade of competitors heading into tomorrow's match. He's interrupted by Javon Evans, who says he wants to beat Orton's record as the youngest world champion in WWE history. He is interrupted then by LA Knight, who comes out to do his catchphrase, but Trick interrupts him. And so LA Knight decks Trick Williams, and they brawl to the back. Orton delivers an RKO to Javon Evans, perhaps, just as a bit of a sort of response to Javon's challenge there. And Orton and Cody share a bit of a stare and a bit of a moment as we set out our show-long storyline of who the last person will be to enter this match.
Yeah, this was a bit more of the conventional parade of competitors that we probably had things not gone wrong on Raw for Bronson Reed. I'm sure they would have just started this show from the in-ring segment that we got. But I mean, it was good. Everyone for a trope where everyone's interrupting each other and there's just some friction. I thought it was well done.
I thought it was totally fine. Again, just maybe drew a lot of connections between Cody and Orton specifically. They really want to make you think that these two are, or Orton's about to turn on Cody or something else. Of course, continues to show you Drew McIntyre and Cody, drawing those associations. So who would you say are the guys you could take seriously as winners of this match? Is it anybody but Cody?
Cody is number one here, but Randy's a close second. And I think, however this match has worked, I could still see, and I think we discussed this last week, I could still see this leading to a triple threat match for the WWE Championship with Drew, Randy, and Cody. I think it might make for a nice variation. I wouldn't be entirely against it. I think WWE can produce really good three-way matches. We could be we could be headed in that direction. The whole thing between Cody and Randy could be a bluff, but I feel like it does feel like it needs to come to a head at some point as well. And Mania is as good a time as any.
Kathy is in the back with Tiffany Stratton, and she is interrupted by Asuka, who says nobody is ready for Asuka. Stratton then challenges her to a match tonight, and Kyrie, I guess, asks Tiffany Stratton if she's a jellyfish, because she was wearing a really frilly dress.
Yeah.
All right. We go to our first match of the evening. It is between Uncle Howdy and Solo Sikoa. This is a big one, okay, Neil? A one that that has been built to for months at this point. Fighting over a lantern. Every match between these groups, I guess unofficially, is for this lantern.
So it seems ever since early January, yes, the lantern is at stake.
Some stats here. This is Bo Dallas's first singles match, I should say, since August of 2024, and his second singles match ever as Uncle Howdy, which happened to be that one. So, I mean, a lot of multi-man, matches, but yeah, singles matches we don't often see from Uncle Howdy.
No, the fact that it's his second ever singles match as Uncle Howdy does surprise me. The fact that the last one was many months ago doesn't really, because we hardly ever see him compete.
Well, if you remember, like even during the Bray one, he was only like running in as like was he in the Mountain Dew match?
I can't remember.
Oh man, yeah, that was a long time ago. Okay, whatever. Yeah, so like he wasn't officially billed, at least as part of the match. So he was here. This is his second singles match as Uncle Howdy. Early on, Solo misses a spike on the floor and hits the post as Howdy works on the arm. Later, Solo regains control. He goes for the spike, but instead stops and signals for the Sister Abigail. Howdy defends this move with the mandible claw, but Solo fights out with the spike, which he sells his hand for. He goes for his hip attacks, but they're intercepted by the Sister Abigail from Uncle Howdy. And so Howdy wins. He grabs the lantern, but the MFTs attack, and they take the lantern back. And so this feud that we thought, I didn't think it would end here, but it certainly will continue, maybe for all of eternity. What do you think, Neil?
I think this feud, yes, will outlive us all at this pace. I am so tired of this lantern thing. I had really hoped once he retrieved it, they might put this to bed and start to look at the tag team division again on SmackDown in a different way. But of course, Tala Tonga appears, grabs the lantern, makes off with it, and then we're back where we started again with this. So this feud must continue.
There is some indication now that we'll be at least involving maybe a different team, in this mix. But whatever's going on between the NFTs and the Wyatts is still very much unresolved. What did you think about the match itself?
The match wasn't too bad for these two, particularly with Bo being so underused in a solo capacity. I thought he did okay. There wasn't. Neither of these two are the best workers on the roster, but I think it was a decent match. I didn't see any terrible botches or anything like that.
There's nothing wrong with it, but there's certainly nothing that like to me attracted you to it. For a feud that's been going on for this long, I think they've been very unremarkable, and the match itself certainly was nothing special. I thought Uncle Howdy received some positive babyface reaction, but overall, like for the time spent and for I think the heights that this group might have came in to this company with, I feel like they're just such a mid-card act at this point.
The intro for these guys was great, and ever since it's been a downhill trajectory. That's true.
And this thing has just been endless with very little change, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Backstage, Aldis sends Drew home, and the Vision arrive, and this is when Paul Heyman wants to help Nick Aldis by offering Logan Paul for the Chamber match. Aldis suggests Heyman may have had something to do with Jay's attack, but he says he'll consider Logan's entry after he makes some phone calls. So more on that a little bit later. RHIYO are interviewed in the back, and they say that they have each other's backs, but Jade comes in, as she will for every single participant in the Chamber match, and Jade basically does some trash talking. She says she hopes Rhea doesn't hurt herself tonight in their tag title defense before the Chamber tomorrow. Jacob Fatu is with Nick Aldis, and Jacob certainly thinks that Drew McIntyre did it because Drew, of course, attacked Jacob, or so he thinks many months ago. That's still unresolved. That's still a dangling whodunit. We've yet to receive really any sort of like movement on. So we've got that whodunit. We've got this masked man thing, and now we've got another whodunit with Jey Uso. So a lot of things unresolved here in WWE. So Jacob thinks Drew did it. Says he's got a Drew problem, and wants Aldis to put him in the chamber, where he will win the chamber and then go on to Mania, and he'll solve Aldis's Drew problem. So more on that later, of course. Jelly Roll is ringside. He's not wrestling today. He's just watching the show. We get our match, Tiffany Stratton versus Asuka, with Chelsea Green on commentary. Asuka comes out and says, I'm smart. And she's so smart that she has decided to rest before her chamber match tomorrow. Instead, Kyrie will take her place. So it's Kyrie time, Tiffany Stratton versus Kyrie Sane. Stratton goes for a pescado. Her feet get caught in the ropes here very early on, but thankfully it doesn't affect her trajectory and everything goes fine. Asuka distracts on the outside to allow Kyrie to control through the break. They fight on the apron while Stratton goes for a suplex, but Kyrie counters with the DDT. Kyrie goes up top, but Stratton shoves her, setting her right into Alba Fire on the outside, who of course is with Chelsea Green. Stratton then starts arguing with Chelsea, who stands up. Kyrie goes for her running attack off the apron, but Stratton moves out of the way, and Kyrie instead nails Chelsea, sending Chelsea right back into her wheelchair. Back in the ring, the PME gets the win for Tiffany Stratton, as they seem to be building something towards Stratton and Chelsea doing something. Also, the bit of physicality we saw from Chelsea, does it give you any sort of indication about her prognosis?
I feel that she wouldn't be getting up and taking any kind of bump, even just a bump back into the wheelchair like she did, unless, she's well on the mend. So yeah, I think she's able for something, because they just don't clear people to do that kind of thing otherwise.
Yeah.
Also, one of my bugbears on WWE television is often when we have the guest commentator, sometimes it just overrides an awful lot. Chelsea wasn't too bad here at all. Like, she just sort of called Tiffany tacky time a few times and made a few jokes. So it didn't overwhelm the match, which was, again, perfectly fine.
I feel like this injury might be the type of thing, even though she might actually, be in reality, be close to coming back. Like, this just might extend her time in the boot, for, to provide some sort of kayfabe injury, because it's kind of making Chelsea Green a bit more funny. Like, her taking the bump into the wheelchair was actually very hilarious, and you could argue the highlight of this match. So they might just have her stay in that walking boot for all the way up until WrestleMania, perhaps.
Doing Orton Senior, yeah, she never takes the boot off.
Maybe. Aldis is with the Vision in the back, and he's spoken to Pierce, and he's spoken to Adam Pierce, GM of Raw, and he says that Logan will get his chance to enter the chamber tonight, but Logan has to beat Jacob Fatu in order to get there. So before Heyman can complain, a very spirited Logan Paul says he sold the world's most valuable trading card. He married the most beautiful supermodel in the world, so he knows he could beat Jacob tonight. Yeah. Makes sense. The math checks out, right?
Yep. Most expensive Pokemon card, most beautiful supermodel. Obviously, I can beat the most. What was it? I think. How did he put it?
Jacob
I can
Fatu.
beat the most dangerous werewolf in WWE. I think was his verbiage. I didn't mind this much, except really for Austin Theory, who I think is terrible in these segments. He's trying to be very aggressive.
Like, he doesn't do anything.
Well, exactly. He just sort of stands there, but he does shout out the odd word, like,
that whatever word he shouted offended you so much that
it's just deeply unconvincing that he's any kind of threat. He's
so if you're directing the scene,
he had to be told to calm down at one point by Heyman, and it's just like, it's just totally on.
So if you're directing the scene, you'd just be like, "Good guys, but we got to do it again." Austin Theory, you talked, and that ruined the whole segment.
Yeah, say nothing, Austin, or maybe shuffle off stage left.
Wow. So Jacob Fatu versus Logan Paul in our main event tonight to determine the final spot in the chamber match. We go to the next match here. It is Oba Femi versus The Miz. And the way they seem to be building Oba Femi is, I mean, not just through a series of squashes. Sorry, I got the wrong graphic there. I got that from WWE.com, okay? So they screwed up, not me. It is Oba Femi versus The Miz, not Kit Wilson, as you saw in that graphic there. Miz grabs the mic. And again, they're not just having Oba Femi squash these guys. They're having Oba Femi, like, sort of humor these guys, who are, like, sort of these low-card comedy jobber guys. So Miz does his whole spiel. He says, we don't have to fight tonight. Nobody wants to see this match anyway. And, of course, the crowd, boos that. He says, 20 years ago in this city, The Miz was in developmental. and he didn't make the mistake of going after locker room leaders like Triple H and The Undertaker. Instead, he wants to take Oba under his wing, and so he offers to be Oba Femi's Undertaker. And Oba responds by saying, You do look like a dead man." And The Miz again offers his help through his many connections in the field. Oba asks for a pull from this crowd, whether or not they should be a tag team known as the Awesome Rulers. And the crowd does not approve. So thus begins the match. Oba blocks a skull-crushing finale, delivers a big toss, then the fall from grace in what I felt was a pretty entertaining squash. For the 20 seconds it lasted.
Yeah.
And continues a series of more talk than wrestling types of segments involving Oba Femi here.
I'm undecided about these. The squash match itself is absolutely fine. Oba should be this incredibly dominant figure, and when the bell goes, he is. I'm not so sure about these sort of semi-comedic interchanges, but we've had 2 weeks in a row with Kit Wilson and now with The Miz. I don't mind Miz saying I'm a locker room leader. There's something slightly comedic about that, but Oba's jokes back to him about, should we be the Awesome Rulers? And, well, you do look like a dead man, in response to Miz referring himself to as an inheritor of the Undertaker's mantle. I don't know that I love that for Oba Femi. I think he should be a bit more serious.
I totally agree. I think these should just be squash matches, but I can also understand why they don't, because, those tend to be somewhat effective, but they're so brief that they're almost forgettable. I understand wanting to give Oba Femi a longer segment while also still giving him a squash, and that would mean a bit of talking. And when you're talking about this level, it usually, you're reliant on comedy, right? But I don't think it's the right tone for Femi. Like, Femi is just coming in as this like incredibly dominant like guy who, like, I don't think it would be all too crazy to say you could put him up next to Drew McIntyre tomorrow, and I think audiences would view it as a compelling, equal, type of match, right? But to put him in these sort of comedic interactions, to me, really takes the edge off the mystique and the sort of like intimidating nature you might have attached to like this figure, who comes in and he should just be destroying dudes. I don't want to see him like listen to poems from Kit Wilson or to even entertain The Miz like this. So I'm sure there's a better solution if you want to extend his airtime than to just have him involved in this sort of comedy bullshit stuff,
Yeah, I agree. I like The Miz for what it's worth. I think he has a valuable role to play as a gatekeeper, but and this was a very Miz segment, but I just don't think that the two of these guys go well together, and the same last week with Kit. So yeah, we're in agreement.
Carmelo Hayes is in the back, and he sees Ilya Dragunov, not dressed in his gear, but in a suit. Dragunov says they're not going to fight tonight, as they discussed last week. He says he lost to Tama Tonga last week, so he doesn't think he deserves the shot, and he will let Carmelo know when he does. Hayes says, screw that. These opportunities don't come all the time, and if you don't take the shot, then somebody else will. And so we get our Carmelo Hayes open challenge, which is answered by Matt Cardona. This is Hayes' sixth defense of the U.S. title. Hayes misses the dive off the apron. He crashes onto the announce table and starts selling his hand. This allows Cardona to control the match through the break. Hayes comes back with a springboard leg drop, still selling the hand. The Rough Rider gets a 2 count. They exchange some quick pins, leading to the first 48 for the victory from Hayes. The announcers do talk about Hayes losing about 98% of this match before the win to put Cardona over. I think 98 might be a bit of an exaggeration, but nonetheless, the idea is that Cardona impressed us all, in a losing effort. Did you think that they were successful in doing that?
I think they were quite successful in that. The idea here, I think, like you said, was that, Cardona managed to take Melo sort of to the limit here. And it was a pretty good match. I was quite impressed by Cardona in this one, which he's pretty old school WWE style wrestler, but they gelled together well. And I thought that, he played to his own strengths pretty well. I thought this was a good, solid match.
Yeah, I thought they were making a pretty strong effort to push Cardona, not just as like even somebody who could be competitive with Hayes, but as somebody who might be a more serious and athletic wrestler than what we've used to seeing from him over the years as Zack Ryder. So I thought that was like decently effective. At the same time, he still falls short from, I think, the standard that you would expect of the U.S. Open Challenge, like you might get from guys like Phoenix, or Dragunov, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think using Cardona this way is using Cardona to his strengths. The appeal of Matt Cardona is personality, whether it be in the form of like the GCW type of heel, or just even like when he was Zack Ryder. Obviously, there are issues with pulling both of those characters out in this current incarnation in the WWE. But I still think some character work is probably going to separate this guy from the pack a lot more than just seeing him have a wrestling match, which I don't think necessarily advances him up the ladder any.
There's been very little development of Matt since he came back into the company under his own name. And it's right from his entrance here when he was the surprise competitor, the crowd didn't really react at all. And I don't really blame them because they've been given no reason to really root for Matt Cardona or to understand who Matt Cardona as opposed to Zack Ryder is and so on. So I think you're right in the sense that, this is perhaps not the best placement for him as, in the wrestling portion of this wrestling show.
So we'll see if there's any more development. I would assume Apollo Crews gets a shot next week, and then maybe we eventually get that Dragunov rematch soon. Perhaps the segment of the night coming up here with R-Truth talking to the WWE SmackDown Tag Team Division, and he's not talking about wrestling. He's teaching them how to order Elimination Chamber on the ESPN app. And if you recall this like stand, this makeshift ESPN like sort of lemonade stand that they have, I mean, they tried this with Truth way back when WrestlePalooza was a thing, and I believe this got them in trouble, did it not? like they gave instructions that made you think that if you're subscribed to ESPN, all you had to do was download the app and you could watch the show.
Yeah.
So I thought the wording.
This, I believe, the original segment was mentioned in the class action, which I don't think is really going to go anywhere, but there is a class action lawsuit out there that I think mentions the original version of this.
If not that, then at least like Michael Cole, like, inferring something similar. So even they were confused.
There was some verbiage along the lines of, if you've got ESPN, then you'll get this, get the app. It was put as simply as that in the beginning, which was definitely wrong. So we get some proper instructions, some more complicated instructions tonight.
They were a bit more careful with their words this time around, and R-Truth says, "This is so awful, this tech division. Look at Alex Shelley. What do you think he's thinking about?" He says, R-Truth says, make sure you're with the ESPN Unlimited plan. Then you can go to stream.espn.com and look at these dorks like pull their phones out as they attempt to sign up for this stream.espn.com. They can't even hook them up with like a a screen backstage or something. So Truth then turns to Ray Phoenix, who's a part of this too, even though he's not in the tag division. He says, Phoenix, you look like one of those big pay TV provider guys. And he says, I know you already have the ESPN Unlimited plan, so you can go to activate.espn.com, follow all the steps, and it's all good. And of course, he says something in Spanish, which makes all these guys laugh. And if you wanted a bit more to the segment, well, Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae are coming out here. He's being wheeled out on a crate again. And of course, it ends with Kit Wilson coming out, calling them all toxic. So these whole segments, as most SmackDown Tag Team Division talking segments do, they feel like some sort of weird hallucination. Like they don't feel like they're something of this species. They're just somebody's like.
This one was spectacularly bad. They're always bad. This one was just some Frankenstein's monster of a promotion of what web address you should go to for depending on whether you've got a big TV provider or not, and then the weirdness of Johnny being wheeled by and them laughing, and then Kit telling them off for laughing because vulnerability is a strength and they're toxic. And you are left somewhat scratching your head at the end of these. Like, how does anyone put all this down on paper and think this is going to be a good use
Yeah.
of television time?
Yeah. What is Apollo Crews like thinking? You know, he got dressed for this. As long as he's getting paid. Like I really feel like these are the types of segments like where you can can expect like some of these guys to be on a podcast to talk about their true thoughts being involved in these segments later on in the future. Like every single one of these people are probably looking at what's remaining on their contracts and whether or not there might be a spot for them in another company. The tech division is just, man, been terrible.
It's inexplicable.
Candice,
I've said this before when I saw it, so I'll keep it super quick. It was one of the highlights of the 3-hour SmackDown era this time last year, and now it's this.
Yeah,
Don't
maybe
get
they're
it.
just waiting. You know, maybe they're waiting for after WrestleMania to really get started. We go to our matchup next: Candice LeRae versus Jordynne Grace, and of course Gargano comes out, doing his depressed gimmick. He's continuing his planking on the announce table, and this was the match where this crowd was completely cold. I
Yeah.
would say they really don't see either of them as any sort of name. I wouldn't say either of them have had much storyline development. Jordynne Grace had that title match and has kind of been forgotten about. Candice LeRae is just really, I mean, she's an accessory to a tag team that no longer exists. So Grace delivers delayed German suplex. It's followed by jackhammer for 2. Gargano then suddenly sits up and walks away, which of course distracts Candice. This leads to Candice delivering this leads to Jordynne delivering a back fist and a pump handle German suplex for the victory. And I feel like these two were trying. Like, I think they're capable of delivering a good match, but the finish was awful, and the crowd was completely cold for this.
They're both good wrestlers, but yeah, I mean, lest we forget, the build for this match was the tag team segment from last week, which like barely, can remember what they were arguing about. It was just sort of like a few sentences at the end of that segment.
Well,
So yeah, the crowd had no
Candice
reason.
was interrupted that Jordynne interrupted her talk with Aldous. Like I feel like 70% of matches made on SmackDown are as a result of somebody being upset that they were interrupted and talking to Nick Aldis.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But the crowd was silent and had no reason not to be. The match had absolutely zero build. The finish was the shits. And I feel sorry for Jordynne Grace, who's very, very good, but she's been given nothing, after the call up. Shouldn't I be able to identify this character in, a couple of a sentence at least, what motivates her, what she is, apart from just being a powerhouse? I don't know. It's bad.
Yeah, terrible. Raquel is in the back. She gets her turn because she's, of course, in the chamber match. Jade interrupts the trash talk. Meechin and BFAB then come out to tell Jade that, again, hey, did you forget we're going for your titles? Were you not threatened enough last week? Jade says, if you're going to talk about it, then why don't you do it? So at this point, BFAB holds Meechin back. They are still definitely building to something between BFAB, Meechin, and Jade. Just a big sea of mid-carders here in all of these segments. Jacob is with Cody Rhodes in the back. Cody says he hopes that it is Jacob's win tonight, so he enters the chamber. Cody then walks into Sami Zayn. Sami holds his hand out. Cody shakes it as they exchange a glance and they walk. They separate. Sami decides to speak to Jacob. He asks how Jey is doing, and Jacob says it's not looking good. Sami knows that Jacob didn't. Well, Sami knows that he didn't do it, but he doesn't know if he can say the same about Jacob Fatu. Because, like, Jacob, look at you. You're benefiting from your cousin's injury here immediately by getting this title opportunity. So Jacob says, be careful. Sami wants his hands on Drew too, and he was also screwed too. Jacob then gets really mad because he says he got screwed by Drew way more than Sami did. He says, if anything, Drew was trying to help Sami win their Elimination Chamber qualifier. He says maybe Jacob should be pointing the finger at Sami as the one who attacked Jey. Sami says, "You're right. I'm sorry. You deserve a second chance." And Sami says he's been going through a lot lately. He hasn't been acting like himself. He has another freak out and flips another table. These poor tables. And that's our segment for this week. And what did you think, Neil?
I kind of like. I'm liking these. As we say, it's all relative. The level of acting ability, but I think Sami is doing this really, really well. These kind of accusatory, and then deciding to apologize. My head's not right. I'm sorry, and then freaking out again. I'm enjoying it because I want to see where it goes. Somewhat confusing unless you really remember that Sami, Jacob, and Cody, who was in the segment to begin with, were the three in the triple threat match to qualify in the first place for Elimination Chamber spot. And Jacob is the one out of the three of those who's, got another go. He's got a second go at it. So, you can also then read into Sami as being not completely crazy in his motivation here, and at least questioning why Jacob, what's going on with Jacob. So, yeah, I'm enjoying it because I want to see where this goes with Sami. And I feel like there's definitely a storyline that they've got an idea about.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, to me, consistently, Sami in these backstage segments is one of the highlights of the show. We just talked about one of the worst backstage segments I feel like we're going to see this year. And on the same show, in like what 10 minutes apart, I think you're getting really quality stuff on the part of Sami Zayn, and also from Jacob Fatu, who I thought was able to really show, I think, his charisma and his acting ability and his way to express anger and changing tone, when he got really upset at Sami here. So these two I thought did really well together, and whatever they're doing with Sami Zayn, I really hope it's something big and not just, another mid-card status type of thing. They are, again, of course, teasing some sort of breakdown leading to, you would think, like a harder edge version of him, maybe as a heel, likely as a heel, I would even say. So I hope he continues to get more focus, because I think these have always been great.
Yeah.
RHIYO versus the Irresistible Forces. Do you like that name for the team?
It's okay. It's kind of obvious, but I don't hate it.
Yeah. Where's the pun? Come on.
Yeah,
We
it's
got
just
Lash extension. We got the Annihilator. Come on.
That's true.
There's
I mean,
nothing.
Irresistible Force was always Nia's kind of subtitles, so they've just pluralized it, which is kind of unimaginative, but it's not the worst.
At least it's not like Nash Leah,
That's true.
Sorry, Lash Nia.
Lax.
Lash Nia. How about Lash Knee? No?
It's not the worst.
Neil. Yeah.
Ish.
Think about this. Jack.
Niall Lash.
Lash.
No.
Okay, whatever.
Whatever.
No. There's nothing. It doesn't work. Irresistible Forces it is.
Yeah.
So the story is about whether Rhea is spreading herself too thin here by competing the night right before the chamber. After the commercial break, we got EO selling here, and we get a big reaction for Rhea's hot tag. She comes in delivering a springboard Rana to Nia. Rhea then stops the Annihilator, and she delivers a cheeky Nando's kick and a powerbomb, getting a 2 count. Crowd reacts really big for Rhea as we go to our second commercial. We come back with Nia and Lash in control as Nia and Samoan drops Rhea onto the announce table with frequent tags between the two of them. The over-the-moonsault is broken up by Nia, with the Annihilator delivered to EO, broken up by Rhea. So at this point, Rhea is back in. She's selling her low back. Rhea delivers the riptide to Nia Jax, but Lash is the legal woman. So she delivers the Lash extension, and while EO is still selling the Annihilator on the floor, Lash Legend pins Rhea Ripley. We have new women's tag team champions.
Yeah, not totally unexpected way, as I think you yourself said during Rewind-A-Raw, that you could see this title change. I felt it was more likely than not, and I will say, like, of the four women here, you've got EO, who's really very, very good. Rhea, who's very, very good. Nia, who I think has one of the most improved. I think she's really, really good. And Lash, who is still a bit green and stood out a couple of times here for that. Some of her selling wasn't great. She took a really bad step bump. It looked so unconvincing, So those things did step out to me a little bit, but in total, this was really a pretty good match, and the crowd were certainly very into it. I think it was one of the few "this is awesome" chants we got of the night. It wasn't the result that they wanted, but all in all, a really good match. And as you say, Rhea is so popular. You're right, from her entrance, she gets one of the biggest reactions of the entire night.
Yeah. Having Rhea and Io be the tag champions so that they could appear on SmackDown, I think that's really going to be missed, because I think they, for several of these segments on the show involving the women, they've really propped up the crowd energy, because it's incredibly obvious, the amount of star power attached to somebody coming in from Raw and just what you got on SmackDown, where even I would say Charlotte or Alexa are not enough to, like really, really engage these crowds the way a Rhea and an Io are, or even like certainly Liv, coming in would be able to. So having those tag titles off of them, obviously they could still show up on Raw, especially if Rhea wins the Chamber and ends up challenging Jade. She's going to be on, SmackDown every single week. But I guess now you got Lash and Nia as champions, and they'll probably make some appearances on Raw. I like the idea. I think like having this sort of like dominant, heavy, like weight, team is always a great idea, because you have a lot of light baby faces that you can create matches with. And I think these two have done enough. They've shown enough personality that I really want to see them give them a fair shake at, running with this division. So, yeah, crowd was great for this one, and I hope for more from these two.
A very short side note, Way. This was one of the matches where Mark Nash does his title introductions. I have to say, I'm not the biggest fan. I think, when he's just announcing the, who's in a match, that's fine. But there's something about his cadence for these things. And their opponents. He just has this kind of way of speaking. It's a me thing, I think, more than anyone else. And I'd be interested to know if anyone wants to comment on it, either live or after the fact. Let us know what you think. But I don't love these Mark Nash title announcements, so I'm just putting that out there.
Okay, shots fired from Neil Flanagan to Mark Nash in the most politest way. He doesn't feel like he's my favorite, but I probably would have also said the same about many of these announcers that I've just ultimately gotten used to, right?
Yeah.
So if I hear him enough, I think I'll probably just like be fine. I didn't like Bruce Buffer the first time I heard him, and now you can't not hear his voice, for UFC. So maybe you just have to be held hostage a little bit longer. Charlotte and Alexa are in the back, and Charlotte is just downing 3 pints of this blue ice cream. Looks delicious. Charlotte is coping. She's doing her whole gimmick where she's pretending everything's fine, with her not making the Chamber and them losing the tag titles, I guess. So James and Julia come in at this point. They're reiterating their goal of holding all the titles on SmackDown. Jade then, of course, walks in to just say good luck to them, because her role on this show is to just say hi, basically, to every Elimination Chamber contestant. The MFTs are with Nick Aldis, and the MFTs are complaining that the Wyatts came in and they attacked them, and Aldis rightfully says, well, you guys jumped Uncle Howdy first. So he says next week they will determine a new number 1 contender tag team, because the MFTs haven't been defending enough. And so we're getting some movement now in the tag team division, so these guys don't just have to listen to R-Truth tell them how to download ESPN in the back.
Let's hope.
They paid their dues. Nia and Lash, the Irresistible Forces, are in the back. There's they're very excited about being new tag team champions. Nia says she's now a 3-time tag team champion. Lash says that they're going to celebrate next week, but Kathy is not invited.
The very short segment, but I do enjoy these two together backstage. I think there's a chemistry there. There's a kind of underscoring of some humor as well between the two. I mean, when you compare them to Bliss and Charlotte, they're on a different level.
When you compare them to any tag team on SmackDown, they're yes, they are like ahead by a mile, but I don't think that's saying much. Like, you're right, there's some chemistry there. but I don't think they've gone far enough with it. Like, show me what these two do when they're just hanging out. Like, you know, like
That's a complaint I have generally, that we're in an era where we don't seem to get any vignettes anymore. And it was we I know that you and I have talked about this before when they were trying to build Charlotte and Alexa as a sort of, odd couple. Then let's show them, out in the street or, on a road trip or something like that, and, in a nice sort of scripted vignette. We just never see those sorts of things.
Oh, they put so much effort into, like, NXT. You could even say AAA, like, gets a lot of effort put into with these sort of like sleek looking, backstage segments. Yeah, like some of it might be AI, but still they're putting the effort into it.
Some of it's AI. Some of it's great. Those telenovela style things.
Oh my God.
I've
The
absolutely
Vikingo
loved them.
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
the
mini
Vikingo
Vikingo stuff is amazing. But yet, like for this show, like, like a guy like a Matt Cardona or like even Carmelo Hayes, as US champion could use these sort of vignettes so much, and obviously these two as well. So I want to see they have like pretty big personalities. I think they need to be bigger personalities, if they really want to shake up this division. Speaking of big personalities, we get a video from CM Punk talking about how much he loves Chicago, and the show is in Chicago tomorrow night. Speaking of even bigger personalities, Neal, we've got Randy Orton in the back with Aleister Black and Zelina Vega. All right, and wouldn't you know it, Black wonders if the Black Mass woke something up in Randy Orton, and at this point, Randy Orton does admit that the voices in his head have been getting louder and louder, but there's no way Black knows what they mean because even he doesn't know what's going on. So he starts getting angry, and he says after the chamber, he's going to find Aleister Black, and he walks away. And of course, Aleister Black says, "Of course, we planned it that way."
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, again, he's doing the carrying cross. He's carrying cross.
It is
in
carrying
Scarlet.
cross in Scarlet Reborn.
Yeah. He does
So
the "I
that-
told you so." That's the character.
Planted that way.
Yeah. So Aleister Black is, I guess, I don't know, completing his mission of turning Randy Orton heel. Big fan of 2009 Randy Orton. Logan versus Jacob is our main event tonight. Sorry, do you have much more to add? Do you want to
No,
give me
I
an
don't.
essay about the story? No?
No.
Logan versus Jacob Fatu for the final spot in the Elimination Chamber match. Fatu dominates. We get a big tope that takes us to a commercial break. And then the reason why I might stutter, everybody, is because I'm trying to do graphics at the same time. And it's like really difficult trying to type in images and then actually talk about and recap these matches at the same time. But anyway, I should probably focus on the words more. Fatu goes for a swanton. Logan gets out of the way. He delivers a blockbuster, goes for a lion salt, but the landing is a bit awkward with Logan landing too far. They actually replay it, and now this is interesting because this was a botch, certainly, but it was one that the announcers used to almost like talk about, well, he underestimated his athleticism,
Yes.
as a way to show, to put him over, to commend him. What do you think about that?
I thought it was an interesting choice. They were someone was clearly putting that in their ear. I mean, look at his athleticism. He was able to leap across the entire ring, So I thought that, I like it when commentary team don't ignore a botch, but try to, pass it off as some, in some way. And I thought this is as good a way as any.
I think wrestlers should botch like this more on purpose so that announcers can talk about wow, he jumped way too far. He must be so athletic,
Yeah.
He totally missed that.
Superhuman.
He totally missed that cutter. Maybe he just didn't know how his own jumping ability.
Yeah.
Maybe. So Austin Theory tries to get involved, of course, and he gets super kicked. Heyman gets on the apron, and it allows Logan to low blow before delivering the bionic fist and a frog splash as Fatu kicks out at 2. At this point, the masked man comes out. He delivers a super kick to Theory. He's about to stomp Theory, but Logan stops him and decks him, and he pulls the mask off, and it is revealed to be some individual that I have not seen identified yet. Somebody that Somebody we do not know is exactly, I believe, what Joe Tessitore said. So,
Yes. I believe keen watchers have already sort of identified that the masked person has been several people, just from their stature, from their build, from their height, these sorts of things. So I don't know if they're trying to weave that into storyline here or what on earth this is all about, but we don't know this guy, even from the sort of class pictures from the PC. I certainly don't recognize him.
hold on. Like, I'm surprised. It's been like an hour and a half since the show has completed. Do we still not have an ID on him as far as
I haven't been
chat
on
room? I
social
haven't
media during the show, so
haven't seen Brian from New Jersey tell tell us. Sorry, Brian, is he from New Jersey? Yeah, he's from New Jersey.
he is South Jersey. Yeah.
Yeah, he hasn't told us yet, so I'm assuming nobody knows yet. And how is it that in 2026, with the amount of photos of everybody, the amount of footage of everybody that's out there already on the internet, that we do not yet have an ID for this guy, who's likely a wrestler, you would think, right? He got attacked here.
They almost always are, aren't they? So yeah.
Okay. So this is potentially a decoy masked man. He comes out, he gets decked. And this, of course, distracts Logan Paul enough that Fatu is able to deliver a Samoan drop. But here comes Drew McIntyre with a belt shot to Jacob, which gives Logan Paul the victory. Logan Paul is entering the Elimination Chamber, and Drew McIntyre is happy about that. So, what did you think about the match and also the result with Logan being added to the match?
I thought from the point in which we got a babyface versus a heel for this final spot, Logan was going to win. But all that said, it was still an entertaining match. This wrinkle with the masked man is interesting in some ways because it's difficult to kind of guess, well, where are they going with this? Is this supposed to be, as we were saying near the start, a write-off of this storyline? I don't think so, because this needs some explanation. Like, who's this guy? Who is sending him out there, if anyone? Where's he come from? Was the fact that he was there tonight and unmasked deliberate to try and throw us off the scent? I think the answer is yes. I think there's going to be more to this masked man storyline.
Okay. So I'm trying to do a very quick, search on the internet, just on Twitter right now, of what people are saying about this masked man. And you tell me, Neal, is this the guy? Is this our guy?
I'm going to say yes, looks very like him.
So possibly the ID on this masked man is Don Furio, who, of course, is an independent wrestler. Looks like he plays an Italian goon featured on Heels, the TV show, in fact. Nightmare Factory trained. Yeah, looks like him. So
Okay,
Don
yes,
Furio.
Fightful are saying that definitively.
Okay.
It's Don Furio. He's a student at Seth Rollins' Black and Brave school.
Okay, well there you go. Well, maybe that was intentionally chosen for a reason. Could this be a decoy sent by Seth Rollins that will ultimately lead to Seth Rollins being, if not the masked man, the person behind the masked man attacks? Are we left to consider that?
I think this is a fake masked man that lets the angle continue.
Yeah, well, for sure. But who is behind this guy? Because who sent him? In fact, the internet actually does move very fast here, because this man appeared as Donovan Isolena at one time on AEW Dark, it looks like. We got his whole background. We know where he lives. We know his whole family, everybody. Okay? Yeah, we know his social insurance number and all that. So yeah, Don Furio. I can tell you his biography right now.
Yeah,
right?
there it is.
Don Furio. This according to Seth Rollins on his own social media from, I guess, May 2025. Furio began his career training under Mid-Atlantic legend George South, and in 2018 would make his in-ring debut in a tag team with Lucky Ali at Wrestling All-Star Promotions in North Carolina. Okay, whatever.
The tie to Seth, I feel, is probably could easily be deliberate, because for all this shitty writing we get, with the tag team division, they can be good at laying breadcrumbs that they know fans will track down. The fact that he's tied to Seth Rollins, I think, is probably not deliberate. Is not undeliberate, because they could have got anybody to do this, a local talent who's far lesser known, for example.
Okay, interesting. So you're suggesting that they want us to dox this man and basically, tell, find out everything we could possibly find out about him. But
Yeah,
I don't doubt.
DMing him now.
I certainly don't doubt you. So that is certainly the biggest news coming out of SmackDown. We actually failed to mention maybe the other big news coming out of SmackDown is the fact that WrestleMania this year will be starting at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, and the first hour of both nights will be airing on broadcast. First night, night 1, will be on ESPN2. The first hour will be on ESPN2, and on night 2, the first hour will be on ESPN proper. So that is pretty major news. The first time WrestleMania is getting that. What is essentially, they're not going to call it the kickoff, because they're going to probably feature some big matches. But like, this is essentially like what, like what AEW has with their tailgate brawls. You get the first hour leading into the pay-per-view. Yeah. What do you think about any of that?
I think it's a very good idea to have it on broadcast television. It may be cable channel, but all the same, a lot of people have it, and I think it gets it into more people's screens, and then they may well want to continue watching after that first hour is up.
I mean, it presents one of the more powerful reasons why you want to be attached to ESPN is to have access to like that incredible brand and also subscriber base, right? So
this is exactly why they went with ESPN, I think, and the amount of promotion that they're going to get on Get Up and all of those other shows on ESPN is going to be enormous.
what level of matches do you think they will put on this portion? Because it can't just be like a panel talking, like on this sort of platform. I would assume you get matches, and probably matches involving stars. Who are the wrestlers that you can see that you think would be a good fit to show?
Unfortunately, I could see the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal taking place on one of these hours, because they still do it. They've shunted it to SmackDown of late, but if they've got an hour to fill before really the show starts properly, 20 minutes of it could well be that on one of these nights. But I do think beyond that, they will want to put some good talent that will miss out on the main cards. Bailey springs to mind as somebody who didn't make it onto either night last year, for example. Who if they've got someone of that level who hasn't made it into a program that's going to make it onto WrestleMania proper, then yes, a match on this sort of portion, I think, would be a good solution.
Sure. So that's one idea, but you can also look at like these hours on ESPN as arguably the most important hours of the entire weekend, right? They are going to be theoretically being played to the widest audience, right? Not just the people that are subscribing at stream.espn.com, but people that are watching on broadcast, so I think they have to be smart with the type of person they put on. I think they have to be important enough and big enough celebrities that might attract somebody that's just casually channel surfing to pay attention. And I don't know if an Andre the Giant Battle Royal might necessarily cut it. I don't even know if a Bailey would necessarily cut it. Like they would, I think, need somebody with a bit of crossover appeal. And another question is, like, do they deliver a full match? Like, how much do they give away? Or do they do the AEW thing where one segment bleeds into the pay-per-view? So
they might do that. It is only 1 hour. It will be absolutely plastered with the commercials, I'm sure, as well. So I don't know that I see any of the matches that we know are going to happen. Any of this and at this stage, it's the main events. The women's and men's championships, plus the Brock Lesnar versus whoever it happens to be. I don't see anything of that level being on this hour. But
how about the first 5 minutes of like the championship match, or like the opening match?
CM Punk versus Roman Reigns. On
the first 5 minutes. No,
I mean, it's no.
I mean, no, I don't discount, something like that. Like, they have to make the biggest pitch possible to get people to download this like ridiculous thing and sign up, right? And those last few minutes are their most valuable.
I see the business sense in what you're saying. I just don't think that early in the show they would want to have a match that big. But
No, not Reigns and Punk. No.
no, maybe the triple if it is a triple threat, Drew, Cody, and Randy, and that's only a theory. Of course, that may very well not come to pass, but something big, certainly. Yeah,
I think whatever
I could
Logan's
see.
involved with, is that maybe they do the masked man reveal like right before the 7 o'clock switch over.
Yeah, could be. I don't know. The cynic in me though does also see panel discussions, and so I think in this hour, you in these 2 hours on the Saturday and on Sunday, we may only get a couple of matches in each.
It's so boring, just to do it.
Oh, I agree, it's boring, yeah, but I don't know. But you're right that this shop window of ESPN proper,
In particular on night
should
2,
not be
ESPN,
wasted.
ESPN proper on night 2, night 1 it's ESPN 2, which is still good. Second place is not bad. All right, that is it for this week's edition of SmackDown. Your thoughts overall?
Improved on last week anyway, which was a low bar to clear. And I think it wasn't hurt at all by the fact that we had some raw talent on the show. Going into a PLE tomorrow, of course. I liked the opening. I thought it gave it momentum, but it's hard to get through one of these reviews way without pointing out that it's 3 hours and there is going to be downtime. And that's, tonight that was typified by the Jordan Grace match, for example, it's where versus Candice LeRae, where it's just like no one's interested. I'm sitting at home, I'm not interested. The people sitting who paid a pretty penny to sit in those seats, they're not interested either, So I still feel the pacing of these shows has some challenging.
I think the sore spots on the show are like on SmackDown continue to really show, and that is the tag team division, which does not exist anymore, and the mid card of the women's division, which we're talking about, like Candice, Jordan Grace, B-Fab Michin, like maybe Chelsea Green being the lone exception where she seems to be getting pretty well. And Julie and James, maybe you can argue too, Kiana James especially being entered into the chamber match. We'll see if that improves her stock. But they still feel very underdeveloped. But I thought the Jey Uso thing was it offered like a nice sort of like captivating, unpredictable element to this show that made this show feel very relevant. So I was kind of grateful, in fact, that we got that. But somebody who was not grateful that we got that, just a little bit of late breaking news here is that Bronson Reed, of course, who updates everybody on the fact that he just got his surgery done. Tomorrow is day 1, the road back. # Bronson Reed. You got to feel for this guy.
Very much so, yeah. This whole faction is cursed, but I mean, it feels like he's not. It feels to me, in the big scheme of things, he's not that long back from injury, and here he is again. So it's I feel for the guy.
Yeah, very unlikely, I would say. Seth Rollins, we don't know. Maybe he'll be back, but Bronson Reed won't be the masked man. I think we can write that off. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Of course, you can go to postwrestling.com where we have our latest edition of Pollock and Thurston, where they go over TKO's yearly financials that were just released. They also react, of course, to the Netflix and Warner Brothers, Discovery, Paramount mess very early on, as Neal and I did on the XL edition of this particular podcast earlier, where we spoke a lot about that. We spoke about Seth Rollins, of course, being close to returning, Nick Gage coming back very shortly, and also AJ Styles reportedly being set for a WWE backstage role. That is all available with your Post Wrestling Cafe subscription. $8 a month gets you a whole lot of stuff here in the month of February. Should I reveal I won't reveal the month of March yet, but we will very shortly. A lot of big bonuses right now, including our reviews of Rewind-A and our Unreal reviews, which are all up there right now. Coming up this weekend, we got Collision Course with Bruce and Kate from Montreal, and then Elimination Chamber We'll be back. John and I tomorrow night. YouTube.com/postwrestling. Please stay subscribed. But if you're in the Post Wrestling Cafe, you can stay around because we'll be getting to your feedback right now.